Welcome. This is the IS200t. It's replacing the IS250. You don't just get the Lexus badge here, Scott.
No?
No.
What else do you get?
You get heavy use of aluminum. In the subframe carrier, the actual hubs are aluminum, the upright is aluminum, and it doesn't stop there. That's the most exciting part. You get aluminum control arms in the back, or upper control arms. There's use of aluminum in the hub back there. Point being, this is just not a budget suspension.
Is there any aluminum body panels?
Yes, I believe the hood is aluminum. The F Sport. You know what the F stands for?
I'd rather not say what I think it stands for, or thought it stands for, but now I know. He taught me it stands for Fuji.
Yes.
And fun.
Yes. It stands for Fuji, the F Sport. Now, the engineers want it to also mean fun. But there's something not so fun about this F Sport model, and this is something we both kind of agree on here.
It'll be these tires when it's 40 degrees out in the rain.
Yes. And the fact that they are also 140 series treadwear tires, which makes 0 sense on this car.
0 cents on almost any car.
Yes. It is a complete waste. You will be lucky if you get 10,000 miles out of these tires. This is not even something they have on the RC, the RC350, the RCF, or the GSF. They don't even have 140 series treadwear tires. This is not a performance car. It's not a sports car. Zero excuse. So if you're looking at the F Sport model specifically, this is something to note. Now, everything's going to less cylinders or lower displacement, and everybody's putting turbos on the car now. And that's mostly for emissions, mostly for efficiency. And there's a lot of tricks they can do with a turbo motor, especially this car, that you couldn't really get away with the older 2.5 liter in terms of fuel efficiency, etc. So as we take a look at this car as a whole, it's almost identical to the IS350 F Sport that we did a review on. So in that vein, we're not going to go and rehash everything, especially for the people that have already watched these videos. They're going to be bored out of their mind by yet another one of the same cars. You want to learn more about the IS, check out the IS350 F Sport review in the description. Okay. The second thing you're going to want to do is, if you want to know more about this 2-liter, we go in much more in depth on the NX200t SUV, or CUV. I don't want to offend the NX owners and call it an SUV, but it's a CUV. We talk more about the motor on that car, also in the description below. But in terms of the IS200t.
So you drove this thing flat out on the track. How was it?
I did drive it on a track, and unfortunately I didn't really get to drive it flat out because it was a lead follow. But as you can see from some of the footage here, this is not a sports car. It is not a track car. The one thing that I can say from driving it on the street and on the track is, it's so quiet, you don't hear the motor. When it's revving out, even on the track, it's like, is the car even on? That was the first thing I noticed.
It needs a sound tube.
It does need a sound tube, but that's, again, you can tell this car is designed around luxury and comfort and just overall no noise. You get inside this car and you realize just how refined it is. It makes next to no sense on the track at all. This is going to make somebody really happy on the road. I think it's got a really good driving dynamic. The steering feels really good. The chassis is pretty good overall. It's just a car that probably is going to do everything well for you on the street, but the track, yeah, it's not at home here. And that's fine. You know, what do you expect? This is not designed to be a track car. This motor is far superior than the old 2.5 liter. And that's what this car is about, is this 2-liter turbo, the potential for it. And it feels like a small naturally aspirated V6. They have the turbo tuned really well here. It makes a lot of sense as a street car. Be curious to see what type of fuel economy numbers you can get in here too, which is odd to say when you get off of a track. But yeah, I mean, as a track car, doesn't do it for me, obviously. It's literally no fun, but capable nonetheless. The second thing that I noticed, and I didn't say this in the driving part of the review, was you don't feel like there's a lot of power there. You don't feel a visceral sense of acceleration. But it is. You look down, you pound through second and third gear, you're up there pretty quick. And that's something I noticed more on the track. It does accelerate, even though you don't get that strong sense of acceleration. I think that's mainly because you hear nothing from this car. It generates no exhaust note, no engine note, no fake digital noise. So you're like, it's not really doing anything, but you're still picking up speed pretty quick. The amount of torque is good and usable for street driving. And it does have more higher end power than a lot of the eco 4-cylinder turbos that we get, and that's one of the reasons why I like this motor more. Oh, it feels good to be back behind a car again. Driving the IS200t, much like the IS350 and the RC, plenty of the Lexuses of this generation feel very similar on the interior. In fact, it's almost difficult to tell them apart. Now with the IS200, the biggest thing that you notice right away is a little bit smaller on the inside. It feels more fitted. It is extremely comfortable. This model is extremely quiet, and that's partially the formula here. This is not a performance car on any level. This is quiet, comfortable, and just more sedate. Now we're going to check out the performance here. So to do that, we're going to go in manual mode. We're going to go to Sport Plus, which is just essentially sharpening the throttle, and we're going to turn the traction control off all the way, which you have to be at a stop to do. So to turn it off all the way. So let's check this out here. As you can see, when your traction control is completely off, you're in Sport Plus and in manual mode, it will let you hit the rev limiter. It's not going to auto upshift for you. Let's check out the handling. Brakes are really strong. I like the brakes a lot for a street car. It has super strong initial bite. I mean, now that fades as you get the brakes heated up, but that initial bite is gonna give most people that confidence feeling on the street. The transmission is pretty quick to respond. Most people are gonna drive this around just in normal mode all the time, or eco mode to save fuel. It never gives you that sense of, wow, I'm driving a sports car. In terms of chassis dynamics, what you're going to feel right away compared to the IS350 or even the IS250 is this car feels lighter. It has a nimbleness about it. It is rear-wheel drive, but this is one of those first rear-wheel drive cars I've been in that I wouldn't know it under first impressions, because when you start to really put some load on this car, your initial turn in, you get understeer. As you start going through the turn, it gets a little bit more neutral, but it always favors understeer. I can't get this car to oversteer no matter what I do unless I just turn the wheel one way on lock and try to gun it. That's about the only way you're gonna know. The one thing you're going to notice about the acceleration in the IS200t right away is this is one of the smoothest 4-cylinders you're ever going to drive in. It's a really good balance between giving you that kind of drivability on the street. Between 2,500 and 3,500 RPMs, you get a lot of torque. It gives you that displacement. It's displacement fooling. You'd think you're driving a small V6, and that's kind of the point of this turbo on the 2-liter is you get that sense you're driving a bigger motor. But you will never be in awe of the power. You will never feel like, wow, this thing is really moving. In fact, I think that's one of this car's best suits and weakest suits. From a performance perspective, you feel like nothing's ever happening, ever. You don't feel a sense of acceleration, you don't feel a sense of pull from the horsepower, and you don't hear anything. It's just so quiet. But if you're looking for this entry-level, smooth, refined luxury car feel, this car does that really well. It's so smooth. It's just always quiet, no matter what you do. I want to talk about one of the weakest things about this motor, just the way that the transmission's programmed or the tuning of the engine. From a dead stop, first gear, you're in manual mode, it doesn't matter what mode you're in. Your initial start in first gear is so ridiculously slow. There's so much delay before it gets going. I think that's what kills the performance on this car the most, and I'm not sure why it's set up this way. So we're at a stop. I'm just going to nail it in first. Let's try this again. Again, it's almost like a CVT, or you're starting in second gear, even though the display says it's in first. There's just nothing happening for at least a second. And I think that's this car's biggest problem right there. I think if they're able to somehow get the throttle sharpened to get this car off the line faster, it would feel much better to drive from a performance perspective. Let's take a look at this last segment of turns here. Once that turbo spools up, there's a lot of torque. It feels really sprightly. It never feels fast, but washed out a little bit there because of some dirt. It just feels like a really light, nimble car. This car is always going to give you confidence. There's never a time where you're like, this thing's out of control. The average driver is going to feel really good behind the wheel of this car. From braking to steering feel, spot on, to overall pickup and acceleration. It's just a non-intimidating car that anybody can get in and enjoy to drive. We're going to go to fully automatic, eco mode. This is what makes the most sense about the IS200t. For most people that are going to drive this car, they're going to use it as a commuter. They're not going to be banging the hell out of it. They're not going to be in full manual mode without the traction control on. They're going to be driving like this. This is what makes the most sense. It's comfortable, it's quiet, it's refined feeling. The chassis and the suspension the dampers on this car soak up pretty much every single bump without making it feel like a couch on wheels. You have a sense of sportiness here without having a sports car. And I know that's extremely hard to understand for the enthusiast market, but most people are not going to buy this car to be tearing up twisty roads and going on the track. I've been on the track in this car, and while it can do it, it is not a track car, but you kind of respect the fact that you have double wishbone suspension here. You have really good steering feedback. You have comfort and quietness over almost all pavement types, and you can still drive in an aggressive manner without feeling like you're going to fly off the road. If somebody was asking, if they were going to come in here and say, I want an entry-level luxury car, and you have I guess you could say the TLX, the ILX, the Infiniti, this guy, did I say BMW already? The BMW.
Probably that, just because of the reliability.
Yeah. I don't like doing comparisons with other cars because if you're a BMW person, you're not going to care. It really doesn't matter. But in terms of, that's a big point. Reliability, these cars have been just historically rock solid. There's not a lot of drama with them. And if you're looking to finance it, I would definitely say this is one of your safer bets. If you can get over, in terms of the F-Sport, if you can get over the aesthetics.
Order a body kit for it.